Do it quick, though.
Yeah, I will.
All right.
It's just 10
One
questions.
question.
Okay,
You're
number.
on. You already answered a couple. I already gave me a couple questions.
Okay. Number one, why would the people vote for you to be president?
Uh, so for why they would vote for me as president, I have a long track record of reform and being somebody who is there for the people. If everybody knows there's a dictatorship and a monarchy for many years. Luckily, it's kind of more of like a hybrid democracy right now, but during the age of the autocracy of the dictatorship, I was one of the people who was against the dictatorship. I was a dissident. I was there for reform. I was there for the people on the ground, not as like a government stooge. Since I was gracefully appointed as the chief justice, I've also been propagating more reform compared to like the old style in which if you were even accused of something, you get sent to the prison for like 10 years. That's a hyperbole, but that's still a very long time. I've instead been focusing a lot on the rights of people and promoting rights among players. So I'm definitely saying I'm the candidate for reform. And I think I've mentioned this before in the interview, but I'm also the candidate for unity. The walls, well, some, can stay, some that can be changed nice. The majority should be torn down. The nation should be more free. It should be more united. It should be more unified. It should really feel as like a cohesive state, not an area divided between sectors. Reform, unity, and change, that's something that I think my campaign has to offer.
Okay.
Uh,
Number two, what would be the first thing you would do in office?
these are Vox, you I already answered these questions.
I know, but kind of lost that recording.
Oh, okay. So you lost that recording. The first thing I would do would definitely be compiling a lot of our best builders into finding a way to take down some of our walls and also improve some of the other walls that could be beautified. Turn that cobblestone into stone bricks and having more towers. Just make it look a lot nicer. This isn't my first thing I would do, but a second thing I would do would also be to help establish a national railway system so that the nation feels a lot more connected by rail. There's like some like minor rail tracks around, but really it's not like unifying. Having something that goes around the nation would make it feel, like really one country, not three different states divided by three different walls. Those are some of the first policy decisions that would occur. This is
Okay.
yeah.
And you've basically already answered number three. Number four, what would you do for the future of Ozarkia? How would your legacy as president go on?
If you want to ask an idea of how my legacy would go on, my idea for legacy would be a reformer and a person who is looking for change and progress into this country. I've said this, and I'll say this again. I will not be a candidate I'll not be a president who will remain in the office for like 2 years. If I feel like my time is come and I've successfully made this country better, I'll hand off my reins to someone else because really this is a democracy and a democracy ruled by people, and I would allow this country to be controlled by the people. So really being known as somebody who's been like pro-democracy, pro-reform, pro-change, pro-progress, that's something that I would love to be remembered as when people are talking about me as president.
Okay. What would you do about the land outside of the walls, not inside the walls?
So the land outside of the walls are some of our biggest missed opportunities. We've been on the server for 2 to 3 years at this point, but we really have not done much outside of the walls. They're still barren. There's still nothing there. And I feel like that's something that the current regime has done nothing to really do anything about. Something I would do as president would be starting new city projects. Some could be based on different themes. Like if there's a more like we could have a more like desert based like Egyptian city. You could have a more jungle based city. There's already cities being worked on that I've helped a bit on, like Petopia, that are more of like a medieval-based city, but really, expanding, making this more of a whole nation, because Ozarkia is not just within our walls; it's everything. It's also a lot of stuff outside of the walls. Really making that more part of our domain is something that would be key to my administration.
Okay, and you've already answered number 6. Why should people trust you?
For why should people trust you? I don't like to kind of like play a little dirty, but in this case, I'll kind of stoop a little low. Michael, I've already talked about this. Michael was part of the dictatorship. He was the king. He was the president. He was the head honcho during this dictatorship. One that suppressed freedom of speech. One that put many of people in prison. One that breeded a lot of distrust among the populace. During that regime, I was a dissenter. I was fighting for people's freedoms as both a judge and a lawyer. In my little neighborhood of Toleran, I helped set up community services so people who were left behind by the government could, pick themselves up and could actually thrive despite the brutalness of this dictatorship. And now, when, of course, this is more of like a hybrid state, I was gracefully appointed to the court. I know I've said that before. I've also promoted freedoms. I promoted freedom of the people, having actual due process, not just putting people into prison just because the people feel like it. But I've also tackled hard on security. I was one of the people who who helped stop Matthew Peckrick before, and I will be one of the. And as judge, I've also helped maintain security, law, and order today. So really, I think I'm trusted on both security, but also freedom, and that's something that I would say is a pretty clean track record right now. Yeah.
Okay. This is kind of a interesting question, but
Yes.
what makes you better compared to the other candidates?
Well, first of all, I've never been a dictator. That's an easy thing to go off immediately and saying. But second of wise, Michael, I like the guy personally. He's a friend of mine, but politically, he's been really stagnant. There really hasn't been much growth, and it's really been concentrated in Toleran. He hasn't really changed. He's really been, I would say, a little stuck in his ways, traditionalist. I'm more of a person who's, more for reform, more for change, more for unifying the population, more for expansion, more for the cohesion of this nation, which is something that I bring to the table, and he doesn't. I also, as you said before, I have great experience as a reformist, a dissident, somebody who was there for the people even when the government and the dictatorship wasn't. And I feel like I have a lot of a bit of trust that to the people that Michael doesn't have. I'm not a member of his family. Somebody who's been like an elite in his government for the longest while. I'm really a common citizen, just like the majority of the voter base. That silent majority of people, of real citizens of Ozarkia, is something that I think would help me to victory. And I feel like that's really a strength I have compared to Michael. Yeah.
Okay. Number 9. For instance, if Toleran was nuked, what would be your first action?
Oh, this is something that has already happened before. Now, the first thing is, if everybody knows this, but I have experience within the courts and within the legal system. Now, I would like to operate within bounds of freedom, so I'm not going to place people into prisons just because they're suspects. Instead, I would have I'd work with the military. I would investigate, go through chat logs, go through the logs of the realm, find out who did it. Also, investigate, use the military to apprehend people, rebuild, and maintain safety of the nation. And also in the courts, really advocate for really advocate for the imprisonment and the banning of people who have done such heinous things. I mean, we just had dealt with a terrorist attack in the embassy, and really, we can't let any of this happen. under, recently, we've had a lot of bombings. It was like first it was Collins Fish Shop, now it's the embassy. We were facing a security crisis, and having strong leadership, but also showing compassion and respect for freedom is what I'll do in the event of a nuke.
Okay. For instance, what if the government's being taken over? How would you protect it?
Well, for issue protection, I already have experience in stopping dictatorships, and I would honestly do more of the same. I would help provide services, help provide food, housing, infrastructure towards people that were taken, people that are persecuted from the government. I would also try to fight in the courts. I know it would be an uphill battle, but I would personally, in an event of a dictatorship, offer to be the defense lawyer towards all people persecuted by them, persecuted by a brutal regime. I would want to make sure that people have their due process rights, and make sure they still have their freedoms. And also, I would also, in the case of if the dictatorship come, I would fight like hell against that dictatorship. I've already taken up arms against dictators before. I would take up arms against dictators again. If I catch somebody being a king or or an emperor, that we are odds, we are enemies, and I will fight them. I have no tolerance for dictators, and I have no tolerance for autocrats. Let that be on my record, okay?
Okay. Well, that is all I needed from you. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Thank you.